Alright guys, welcome back. So now we're finally getting into Scream 6 spoilers. This is a full spoiler review and talk. I'm talking about the ending, I'm talking about the reveals. So if you want to hop off, I'm going to have it in the title anyway, but still, just want to give you a heads up. So let's get into it. Now, kind of just elaborating on what I said in my spoiler-free review, I really enjoyed this movie. I would put it very high up in terms of Scream movies. There's a lot that they do amazing. It's very entertaining. It's a very tense Scream movie, and those character interactions is just what makes everything so great, and all the characters are so likable. That makes a huge difference when they're in danger, because it makes you worry for them so much more, because you actually want them to make it out of it okay. But like a lot of people, I kind of feel mixed on the ending. Now, before talking about the ending, I want to talk about some of the stuff I really enjoyed throughout the movie that they were doing that kind of threw me off. Some twists, turns, things that they did differently that I really enjoyed. That beginning surprised me. Now, I thought that there would be some kind of fake out or it wouldn't be real. I thought Samara Weaving would actually make it longer in the movie. I thought that she'd actually be a character. So I was kind of surprised to see her go so early. But it was a great scene. As soon as you think that it's just going to be that basic first kill in the movie, but only taking place in New York, he pulls the mask off. That is a huge difference. And I was not expecting that at all. And it was a really good misdirection. It sets up the movie so well. And I love the scene where he's walking back from doing it and Tara stops him and he has a normal interaction with her. It's just so weird to actually follow one of the Ghostface killers before they're actually caught at the end of the movie, and they have the big reveal and everything when they're just trying to be normal after they do it and get away with it, when they're just walking back and resuming being a normal person. Because by the time we found out who the Ghostface killer is, they always pretty much turn into a Looney Tunes character, go all crazy, and you never actually got to see any of the ways that they acted after they did what they did. You never got to actually follow their perspective for a change. So that difference was just very interesting to me. Moving on though to the sequences, the scene inside the convenience store had me on the edge of my seat. That was a very intense scene. I was really enjoying it. You felt every single little noise that was made that Tara and Sam were making. It was just easy to get so nervous and caught up, and it just immersed you in the scene. So definitely a big fan of that. But now with that out of the way, I think that it's time to talk about the ending, because it's, you know, I'm mixed about it. There's stuff that works for me, stuff that doesn't work for me. But I think what kind of separates my experience maybe from other people's experience is that I felt a little bit of relief with the reveal, but at the same time, the reveal's a little bit boring. And I'll get into why. I'll tell you what I was thinking while watching the movie. I'm not going to act like I called it or anything, or that I just was able to predict the ending or who the killers really were. But kind of my mindset while watching the movie was just, for the first little while they were setting up characters I wasn't exactly sure, but I just couldn't help but think that these new characters weren't fleshed out enough. I thought Ethan was kind of boring. Bailey was, you know, it felt too obvious to me. It almost felt like a misdirection. So I think the relief aspect will kind of make more sense when I tell you what I was thinking throughout the movie. So I did not think that they would pull another fake death only to reveal them to be the killer, which I kind of hate that. It just takes all the fun out of guessing the whole time, trying to think about who could be the killer when things start to narrow down. I think it's very cheap when they do that and they relay the information that the character is dead only to swap things up and reveal that they're the killer. I really don't like that when whodunits do that. I didn't like it in Scream 3, and I don't really like it in this, even though they kind of had to do that. Otherwise, it would make it completely obvious who the killers were. And with that, I just found Ethan so underdeveloped. I thought that he would probably be a Ghostface lackey. I knew that he wasn't most likely going to be the main Ghostface killer. Bailey just, it felt like way too obvious. It felt like they were trying too hard at certain points to make you think that he was Ghostface during the movie. He just felt like way too much of the obvious choice, and maybe that's intentional because it made me like almost not guess him. But and at the end of the movie, when it turns out it is him and Ethan and Quinn, you're just kind of like, all right, that's a bit of an underwhelming reveal. But I'll tell you though, the second half of the movie movie, I was pretty dead set thinking this movie's subversive, this movie's different. I think the killer's gonna be Kirby. She wasn't there for a lot of the situations. That's kind of what I was guessing. Even way before they started alluding to it to try and throw you off, I really was convinced at one point that it was gonna be her, and I would have hated that. But the only thing though is, you either get an extremely different, very risky reveal that basically destroys the legacy of a beloved fan favorite character, or you have the boring safe option. They went with the boring safe option. Maybe it was better, but it was definitely way less unique or creative. So that's where my mixed feelings kind of come in on it, because I didn't want Kirby to be the killer. I love that character. I wouldn't want them to be doing that and destroying her legacy, destroying her character, but it made sense to me while I was watching the movie. And like I said, I found Ethan and Bailey to just be the most obvious boring choices while I was watching it, and I didn't know Quinn was still alive, so you're almost in a rock and a hard place type situation where you either get an unsatisfying reveal or you get a reveal that pisses you off. And Bailey probably got the most development of any of them, but even then, I didn't find him to be a very interesting character, not enough to where the reveal was satisfying to me. But I'm not going to rag on it too much because they had to give you some kind of ending, I guess. I was surprised to see Quinn still alive, but again, it's a cheap shot. It feels like when they make you think a character's dead, only to bring them back to make them reveal to be the killer. I've never been a fan of that trope. It feels like an easy obfuscation of not having to do the work to conceal the identity of the killer when they do that, because obviously it just allows her to disappear for the rest of the movie until the reveal is shown. So it's just a cheap and easy way to kind of outthink the script and not have to do the work to conceal that identity. So now they could have Ethan and Bailey in any scene that they want and alleviate the suspicion from them when the writers want them to. Now kind of getting to the motivations, I didn't find it to be anything particularly special. The motivations, just they're Richie's family coming for revenge. We've been there, we've done that. That's what's so weird to me. And that's why I was also so convinced that Kirby would be the killer, is because the rest of the movie was so unique, different. They played with the structure. They subvert a lot of your expectations of what you come to expect from a Scream movie. So I thought that would carry into the ending, and it also made sense to me that Kirby would be the killer. She comes from, it's not the black sheep because it's not the worst regarded movie. Obviously the third movie is the worst regarded, but you gotta think of it like this. Scream hit its original trilogy, dropped off for 10 years, had this kind of arbitrary sequel in between there with a decade separation in between both stretches, and now we're getting a new trilogy of Scream movies, and that kind of leaves 4 to be in this odd sort of limbo. It leaves the character of Kirby in an odd kind of limbo, and it would have made sense to me that she would feel kind of almost forgotten by the franchise because she didn't get that trilogy. She didn't get those sequels. She could have been set up to be the new final girl, but she'd never got her spotlight. And maybe that would have been a little bit too much of a rehash of Jill. And, you know, I'm glad they didn't do it, but I'm just saying it made sense to me why or how that could happen, to be honest. But that's not the ending we got, and I'm glad we didn't. But as well as that, I kind of wish that they were a little bit more restrained with how they portrayed Bailey and Ethan and Quinn when they do reveal that they are Ghostface. Because they do this every movie where they just have this over-the-top reveal, and now all of a sudden characters who have been quiet or just more reserved or even just completely different, they act fucking insane. They did it the last movie and it made more sense. He was supposed to be an insane toxic fan or whatever, so it made more sense why Richie would just be completely off the edge. But they could have done something really interesting here, like in the beginning on the phone when Flash from Spider-Man, I don't remember his character's name, when he's on the phone with Ghostface and he's describing killing the professor, and the Ghostface says they were a person. What's interesting about that would be, what if we had a Ghostface who wasn't interested in hurting people or killing people, didn't even take pleasure in it, but just had this irk, this revenge, and is willing to kill bystanders along the way, people that get in the way, but ultimately have their goal of getting to Sam and Tara and Chad, Mindy, the people who killed the son. If they were just revealed to be a little bit more restrained, focused on the mission, and just not completely insane like they relish in this, like they do in every movie, I think it would have been a little bit more impactful at the end when they do reveal who they are. It's just bizarre because these reveals happen and they don't retain a semblance of their prior character. especially Ethan. He went totally off the fucking rails. I don't know what happened there. And I know that they're revealing themselves to be these psychotic killers, but the line of the motivation for this movie just doesn't match up with the way that they were acting. They were acting like psychotic people that enjoyed killing and loved it when they weren't set up to be that. They were set up to just be wanting revenge. It almost made it seem like they would have just dropped everything and left it to be after they accomplished these killings. I really enjoyed the last sequence. It was very suspenseful and entertaining. It's just I wish they toned back the lunacy a little bit, but it didn't ruin anything for me. You also have a lot of interesting setups for where potential sequels could go in this movie. Fingers crossed that Stu could maybe come back. They teased it, but that could also just be them acknowledging what the fans are saying and kind of teasing us. Besides that, I might talk about it in another video, what I think that they should do for the next movie, but those are kind of my spoiler thoughts on the ending. There's a lot of controversy behind it, and you know, I align with some of it, I don't with other parts of it, and I don't want this video to come off as negative because I really did enjoy this movie a whole lot, and I would love to hear what you guys think. Let me know how the ending and everything worked for you guys in the comments. I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.